Hey everybody, it's Tom again. Welcome to Guitar We There Yet. Today we're gonna work on a hell of a song. We've got Dazed and Confused from Led Zeppelin, and they really throw the kitchen sink at this song. We've got a mid-section that has not only a long solo and some cool riffing, but it also has a freaking violin bow in it, so we're gonna have to play the guitar with that. We've also got some cool use of the effect pedals, and we get to talk about harmonics and stuff like that. So let's get right into it. The song opens up, let me just get on my tab here. The song opens up with, of course, that classic bass line. We're not really playing that on guitar, but we hear that first, and then we got these two harmonic noises on the 12th fret. So to do that, if you're unfamiliar, you got to take your pointer finger, or any finger, and put it directly over the metal bar that is the 12th fret. So instead of pushing down just behind like a normal note, we're going to go right on top of the fret, and we're also not going to push the string. We're going to touch it. We're not going to depress it down to come into contact with the fret or the fretboard. If we do that right, we should be able to take our finger away and the sound is still there, like playing an open string, but we've gotten it to sound in that upper register by playing. We haven't actually held it down at the 12th fret, but made the sound of the 12th fret. So it has an airiness under it, and then they move it over to the 5th fret. Now this is where we're actually an octave above the 12th fret. So there's a long story about how harmonics work, but suffice to say, these notes are higher as you go this way on the fretboard. Now to make the sound from the song, we need to turn on the overdrive and the wah pedal, and we got to put the wah in toe down position. Well, actually no, with this part we have to be on it and go. And we can kind of hear that really like almost distressing sounding wailing from the wah pedal, just moving slightly as those notes ring out. The next thing, we got a really cool one. The tab here says to go to 12. And then we have to, because it's a harmonic, if we want to bend that note, we have to go behind the nut, kind of like we would see in the Heartbreaker solo, but in a totally different sound. Now, I myself like to do that one over here. But the point is, we get this really ear-catching and psychedelic sound right off the top with the intro. And this just plays throughout the first verse. I'll try and go along with it here. There's some dyads with harmonics. And then we'll pause it here just so we don't want to get a copyright strike. But we're going to take a look at that next riff. So in the verse, all we did was continue our harmonics technique, just kind of providing a pad of sound or textures underneath the verse, more so than a percussive riff. But then we're about to go right into a big heavy riff here. So we got another cool thing to look at on the techniques here. We'll lose the wah pedal, but we'll keep the distortion. And then we got so this cool sounding riff. We're basically mirroring the bass line, which is going chromatically from like a G, F sharp, F, E, and then a D, C sharp, C, B. We're hitting those same notes, but rather than play the 5th fret where it's G, we're going to bend the 4th fret a half step. And then put it back to normal for its regular note. Instead of playing the 3rd fret, we're going to bend the 2nd fret. And then put it back to normal. So this is a great song for ear training on a half step bend, because we can really hear those 4 notes if we do our bends right. So the whole riff is just to hit the big string and then basically just notes that last for a 12/8 beat or for a triplet. Now sometimes you'll see in live performances he kind of hams them up, but we're not going to bother with doing too much more in the bending with this one, mainly because this is going to be a long video if we don't move it along. So that's the verse riff. In first verse, I'm pretty sure we only hear it in this octave, and then second verse is kind of attached to the first verse. Let's just see if we have that guy come in. Where is it? Oh yeah, so it does come in. As we hit to the second half of the verse here, now this next guitar is labeled as having an octave or an octavia effect on it. I don't really have that effect, but it's basically we're just adding another psychedelic tone. We could maybe fake it by having the wah on heel down. Let's try that. Oh yeah. So that's just the same line as the verse, just done up in an octave higher. So we hear that guitar and the regular first guitar going at once. We get this big fat riff effect where the whole band is just playing this chromatic line. And again, the song was right out of the psychedelic era, and the whole thing is meant to be strongly disorienting for the listener, especially if you've never heard it before. So what happens at the end of this is, rather than another full bar of 12/8, we just drop a beat off and it becomes a bar of 9/8. But really it's just 1, 2, 3 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. Because with 12/8, each whole beat is a triplet. So it ends up feeling like. So we've got our verse riff that's all chromatic, and it keeps heading downwards towards 2. What happens, or towards B, which is on the 2nd fret. What happens is we lose that beat in this bar, and we jump right onto the B note that was our destination anyways, with a new riff, with a heavy riff. Let's watch it go into that here. We lost it at the bottom of the page there, but this is just this phrase over and over 4 times. And with that one, we want to make sure, don't be lazy and be hammering it, and don't worry about flattening your finger and trying to get it all at once. Just play that power chord and then go on a quick walk with down up picking. Down up, down up, down up, down, 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 down up, down up, down up. Not only will that be easier to play because your economy of movement is better, but it's going to sound more like the actual riff. So they hit this big heavy riff all of a sudden, drums change up under that too, and then no sooner have they gone to it than we're right back to our verse. Let's do that one more time. There's that other high guitar is in there right away now. So now we're back, and we're in verse 3. We're into the same vocal melody. This is now familiar territory in the song. And then we're going to hit back to our big crushing riff. But then we move into the interlude. And this is where things get a little bit wild. So let's watch how this guitar kind of trails off here. And then this one disappears. I kind of biffed it there in bar 28. But let's go see what does start happening. So Jimmy Page, if you know much about Jimmy Page or Led Zeppelin, you're familiar with his use of the guitar and the violin bow together, which is mainly just for show, really. Like, it's just a cool way to play, and we explored some new sonic territory with it, but it was really like a great stage prop to interact with the audience and to do sort of cool stuff that fit in with not only the psychedelic era where they started, but then with the hard rock sort of virtuoso era they got into. So what happens here, and we can see it on the tab, is we've got probably the distortion on. I don't know if we need the wah yet, but we're going to have the distortion on, and this bit here is just the tail end of the riff, and then we hear da-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na, and then we got this. So to play the violin bow on the strings, the main thing you want to do is remember that you're only really going to be able to get the outside string and maybe the second string, and the same thing on the bottom here. You're only going to be able to get a couple of the little strings at once. If you try to get all 6, you sort of lose some of them unpredictably. And so it's because the Les Paul is not really, it's an arch top guitar, but it's not got an arched string action, and so you end up playing the outsides of it, except for something we'll look at in a minute, which is where we turn on the delay pedal and just smack the whole thing with it. But what happens here, let's play along, see if we can get it. There we go. Here, I gotta try keeping it in one motion. There we go. So the bow doesn't need to go back and forth for every note. Oh, now we're gonna hear, I think I might have muted it out because it sounds so bad, but there's another guitar comes in here. Okay, coming up. So there's 2 guitars on the track with the bow. They sort of cross over here when we're done with our little 2-note motif. And then we've also done our that thing. And then that's where this guitar drops in, and they're both kind of hitting some notes that purposefully clash. I think one guitar is bending the 8th fret here, and the other one's bending the 9th. And they're just kind of making a chaotic section there. And then as this interlude continues on, it quiets down a bit, and we start to hear this cool pattern. Now in the tab here, they've just called it tremolo picking, and when you push play on that digital tab, it sounds terrible. But what's happening in the real song, if you go listen, is we've got the 2 high strings gripped in whatever dyad Jimmy has there, so that's a 7th fret B and a 10th on the high string, and then we want to just almost vibrato the bow, just like get it so it angles on those 2 high strings, and then just move it around. Whoa, noise control. So that wasn't exactly that, but that's kind of a demo of the technique. I'm going to push play and see if I can follow along the actual tab here. So we're vibratoing on the two little strings. We want to watch to see if we can catch the timing. Yeah. That's a little tricky there. Now, there's one other ingredient on this I didn't put in yet. Forgot all about it. The wah pedal. So, just like I said, we're throwing the kitchen sink at this song. So, while Jimmy's doing this, we also got the wah pedal just going back and forth. And this creates the sound you'll probably recognize from the song, I hope. And then we're up here. Ooh, that's tough. So let's hang on a sec. We start hitting some bar chords there. Probably want to hold the whole bar chord down for resonance. Should also mention my bow has very, very little rosin on it. But I get a better response if I've got the end of the bow on the strings, just because it's tighter there. So what we end up here is our tremolo picking, or our fast bowing, is still just continuing, and we're going from an E bar chord here to a D, down to an A. Oh, there we go. We need the wah pedal off too. And then we're down here, down to an F, and here it suddenly sounds big key change, very distressing, and then to an E, maybe with with the neck pickup on too, even better. So let's try that section from here. Oh yeah, I got time. Whoa. Oh, ran off the end of my neck there, end of my guitar. And then it kicks into the actual guitar solo that's going to be a little more standard to look at. So that's the bow. If you don't have a violin bow, you can buy a cheap one. You don't need a nice one to play the guitar with it. You just need something that has strings on it. So that said, take a sip of my drink. And let's look at the solo. So we're out of our crazy bow section. The band is going to pick up here. Now we're going to hear the bass actually start going. Nope. And that's the riff we see on the guitar. We only join in on it for a little bit, and then we're on to other stuff, including our first big theme here, which is some compound bends. Let's get to those. Oh yeah, and we're going to do the speed training on this solo where necessary, but probably not for the whole thing. Now here we also have a move we're going to want to speed train. Let's talk briefly about those compound bends. So all we're doing with the compound bend, if you're unfamiliar, is this note here, 15th fret, that's D. This note here, 17th fret G, that's a C. And if I bend it up a whole step, now it's D. So I want to match the vibration on those two. Here it is off. Hear that clash? Here it is, both notes on. I missed it. There we go. Two notes ringing as one. So now the trick with that, and you can hear me fumbling it a little bit there, is we have to make sure that we're not pushing just the same pressure for every spot on the neck. So our fast move here, we've got a couple of these in this solo. Let's put it on repeat here and kind of train it up. Let's see. So yeah, we're going to move on to another motif after these 7 or 8 bars. Let's put it down to a nice 1/3 to start. So this part, of course, we're getting a little into the scale runs, and that'll sound smoother as we speed up. There was a little bit of funniness here. I didn't really notice this. This move kind of devolves from being 16th notes into triplets. 1E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3. Let's hear that just on isolation and turn this guitar way up. There we go. Oh, just this bar. Kind of like it just slows the heck down. Still the same phrase. Let's keep that in mind as we go again here. I think we'll try this at about 10% faster. I kind of want to hear that. Maybe even a little faster just to get the phrase a little better. Feels a little better. Yeah, so we are essentially just slowing down this move, and it happens to work into triplets there. Now that's going to sound less dramatic when we hit up to higher speeds, I think. But let's try this out at about 2/3. We'll go from the top of this lick. there, it's off my screen. Sorry, y'all. Let's change the zoom on this a little bit. It usually fixes that problem. There we go. So, let's do 2/3 again. My goodness. Yeah, it's just messing with me at this point. We'll put it down to regular zoom. Sorry for the far-sighted there. I think that's the best we're gonna get with the zoom in here. So let's practice it at about 80% here for a round, and then we got another one to look at down here later. Yeah, that does feel somehow a little more phrasey as we get fast. Let's keep it at maybe just a little less. I do feel like I'm hacking that a little bit. Maybe let's pull the groove in one more bar. Okay. And before we do the whole solo at 100, let's bump it back down to 2/3, run from here, and go on through the rest of the solo. See how we are. Yeah, so we've got, I'm really getting sick of this zoom in thing. Let's go back to 120 where it seemed to be working better overall. So we're coming out of this move. Then here, we've honestly got kind of a, I played it sloppy just there. We've got a sloppy kind of phrase. We're really just kind of capering down the neck. Yeah, I'm even instinctively faking it there. Let's slow this down a bit and get it right. Solo notation here says here bends in 0 are done by pressing behind the nut. So this, I think we're working our way down the string, really in kind of a, almost we just want to count the beats, and then we get So what's not shown here for some reason in the notation is that this 0 should be bending to achieve this 2. And what Page is doing we're just hitting behind the nut, pulling on that G again. That's what the tab is talking about at that point. And then we've got a couple of dramatic big bends going on there. These also could, yeah, I don't think they're behind the nut. They're on the D string. So this part, just big bendy expressions, should be pretty easy to get. And then we've got another fast riff down here. This one looks like a little more of a scale run, but let's try this guy out here where it's still at pretty slow speed. Okay, more of just a scale run for sure. This definitely is something that we would see looking a little bit, or sounding a little bit more phrasey at full speed, but I don't think that's going to be a hard one to take on. Then we've got this guy. We move up our motif here to the something at the 17th fret, and we start going on the pentatonic box there, and then at bar 97 we start with another very distinct motif. Let's take a look at some of these. And then we're out of the solo there. So that end part, I didn't catch this bar because it was off my screen, but big motif thing here is we've got the giant bend, down, da da da, down, da da da, and it's just a different spot for the bend, always returning to this E note here, and then eventually the E becomes the bend and the whole thing moves down until we're all the way down the neck, and then we're just kind of, you know, maneuvering our way across the scale and the fretboard until we get down to the low end, where it's time to meet the drums for this big E chord here. So let's jump back, see if we can run this entire solo, and let's try it at 75% to start. We'll see how we do. The end sneaks in pretty quick there. Not too bad. I feel like I maybe faked it a little bit in there, in that bar. Let's take that one on really brief slow motion practice. Just to about there. Okay, so there's a little bit of a double in there. That's kind of the flavor of the move there. Okay, let's get back to our progress here. We'll try this at 80%. No, actually a little faster than that. We were just at 78. So let's try a nice 87. And like I say, we're going to fake it till we make it in some of those extreme bend spots in the middle of this solo. Notation's a little weird. Ooh. Missed one there. And there. Oh, yikes. Okay, this is catching me off guard there, guys. Or I'm flustered and I did a bad take. Let's try that again. And now the screen's messing with us. C'est la vie. Okay. Feeling a bit better on that one. Sorry for all the issues with the stupid screen advance thing on Ultimate Guitar here. Can't seem to find the right zoom in, or maybe it depends on exactly where I'm scrolled when I start the thing. But let's try from here again. This time we're doing it at full speed. missed it. Okay, so 100% speed. Let's just maybe call it at that. We've only got a little bit left in the song here. We hit this big riff at the end. That's most of an A chord. Probably with the thumb, I think is probably how he's doing it. Up to a G. This goes on. We hit the big riff. So at that point, the song is very quickly over. Here we get a little bit of embellishment on that note, like I was mentioning he does in live performances. Let's see. There we are, again to the big riff, and then finally we've got the outro, which kind of, it almost seems like we're going back into the violin bow. We've got it just continues on, and once we've got to E to D, E, D, we switch to this riff that's kind of the finisher for the whole song, and we're just pumping a D octave here. So we were basically on one E and a triplet, da 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 da, triplet, da 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 da, triplet the whole time, and then after we've done, where do we hit it? We hit it on beat 3 of a bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We hit 9 of those. There at the end, we're just hammering a D. One E and a 2, or counting 30-second notes there is not going to be fun, so we're going to go na 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 na. And we hit an E, and the song comes to an end. So there's a heck of a lot in there. That solo is even kind of a stinger. I feel like I was a little bit floppy on some of these moves here. Probably warrants more practice, but I didn't want to make the video excessively long either. So if you guys would like to see a whole speed trainer thing on that particular solo and go more in depth, then great. But I have a feeling most people were here for the guitar bow, violin bow. So tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, interact with the channel, tell me your story, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Bye for now, guys.